Everybody, it's time for another episode of Moments in Ministry with Mark and Bobby Brown. Thank you for your time, and we'll jump right into this week's subject, which is escape. I'm going to come from the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, right around verse 13. There's a line in there that says he'll make a way of escape. But I want to ask a question. At the beginning of this particular chapter, it makes reference to the Exodus. If we know the Exodus story, which is one of the most well-known stories in the Bible, Moses is a very well-known character. We know that Israel, 400 years, they had been in bondage and they were crying out to God, and then eventually he sent Moses. So they were in this turmoil. And, when you're praying and God hasn't sent the deliverer yet, you're stuck to a point where you're just trying to, get by. When you're in a difficult situation, you don't have a long-term solution. You don't have a solution to your problem. What can I do to just make this palatable until the deliverer comes? What can I do? And you can get into this mindset of just trying to get by. And when God does send the deliverer, which was Moses, and he says, hey, I'm going to lead you out. Sometimes we're stuck in this mindset of temporal or temporary relief. And even though we're praying to God and he sent this thing and he's saying, yeah, land flowing with milk and honey and all that, we may not know exactly what that all encompasses or what that really means. And we can still have our eye on temporal or short-term relief. Now, historically, what we know from the scriptures is that God meant for it to be a long-term thing. The children of Israel were going to have a leadership component that when he led them out of Egypt, through the Red Sea, through the wilderness, and into the Canaan land, that they would have wars to fight. There were kingdoms to subdue. There were many, many things that they had to deal with. But God was going to use that. And if you get through all of these challenges, every step of the way, there might be challenges, but then there would all be some things that were very, very fulfilling. One of the things that when we are stuck on temporal or temporary solutions, it's just that they're temporary, and you wind up doing and spending a lot of energy on some of these things, and you wind up thirsty. You say, what do you mean thirsty? That's still a reference to the story that I touched on before, is the woman at the well, where Jesus told her, he said, if you drink of this water, you'll be thirsty again. He said, if you drink of the living water, you'll be satisfied. What we're trying to get to, what God is trying to get to, is to get us to that point where we're drinking of that living water. That we have something that's not just temporary, but it's fulfilling. But when you've been stuck in temporary land for 400 years or for a while, it's a different mindset. And it takes a total change of mind. It takes a total transformation to be able to move from temporary to long term. Especially when you ask God for help, Lord, please help, please help, please help. You're not really sometimes thinking about long term. You're thinking about, I want help for this item right now. Get me through this right now. Where God always, everything he does always factors into a long-term solution. Doesn't mean that God's not going to give you something fulfilling today. But that fulfilling thing today, if you value it, will also lead to long-term growth. It'll turn to long-term fulfillment. And that's what he says, that I'll make an escape for you. But the thing is that we cannot take this lane of escape and being able to get away from ourselves, because the Bible in the 13th chapters talk about temptations, where we're tempted, our flesh is tempted, and sometimes temptation's not always, there was a Denzel Washington had this movie back in the day called Devil in a Blue Dress. It was a woman in this blue dress, and it was a crime drama. So we're not always talking about some pretty woman in a dress, and that's the temptation, or a handsome man is a temptation. Sometimes the temptation is to keep staying back in the temporary view. Sometimes your temptation is to go back to what you were in. And that's why I say I had a question for you, because I suspect that whoever is listening to this, you have some type of request up before God, that there's some area of your life maybe that's not as smooth, and you're saying, Lord, help me. Help me to get through this. I need a solution. Get me through this. Or maybe you realize yourself that some of the things you're doing, some of the things that have you bound, you have temptations in you that have you bound, that you have a mindset that you are constantly bound and it's not fulfilling. And you're saying, Lord, help me. Lord, please deliver me. And I will ask you this, folks, because like the children of Israel, not once, not twice, many times, every time they ran into some hardships as they came out of Egypt, many times they looked back, man, I wish we'd stayed in Egypt. I want to go back. Is it really that good where you came from? Remember, wherever you are today, whatever you're going through today, folks, just be mindful, because some of you may have been praying for something and God starts to move in your life and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, God's moving, but this ain't exactly what I was asking for. And I don't really see the value of it. And I'll ask you a question. What you came from? Because you've stepped away from it, but what you came from, do you really want to go back to it? Because if it's worthwhile, then go back to it and stay with it. Now, I'm not trying to be sassy. I'm not trying to talk down to you or be nasty or anything like that. But really, whatever works for you, stick with it. And wait a minute, man. Don't tell people they may have been on crack cocaine. Yeah, if crack cocaine works for you, go do it. If you're a married man and the devil in a blue dress, if that works for you, go ahead and do it. Does that work for you? See, I've never been on crack cocaine. But I know a number of people who have, and nobody has a good testimony about it. Nobody says, oh man, this is the best thing in life. Oh man, I'm gonna stay on crack cocaine for the rest of my life. No, most of them have a testimony. They're like, man, God delivered me from that mess. Because it is not a good way of life. None of them have a good sign. Their family members don't have a good testimony about it. Nobody. I've been around some people sometimes, I've heard stories about people who have had affairs and things like that. Oh, it was fun for a little bit, and then it just wasn't that fulfilling. And then and in some cases, you messed up a good family life. Oh, was that cool? No, the end result of it is not good. So if what you came from is not good, then let's not look back to it. No matter how you're tempted, your temptation is, well, I have a struggle in front of me on this new path that God has put me on, but maybe I need to go back to what I had because it wasn't the best, but it was better. It was better than nothing. No, what God has for you is going to be better if you have patience and if you keep walking. Now, you have to think about this. Now, I know children of Israel, they wandered in the wilderness for all those years, but the Bible said it was only a few days' journey. Everything doesn't mean you're going to be wandering in the wilderness forever. It was a few days' journey. So you come out of Egypt. You go through the Red Sea, through that situation. That was very dramatic and, tense. And some of the people there, I don't like this. I'd rather go back. Then you get through that. And then you get through some other situation. And then when you do get to Jordan and you do cross over it, oh, there's giants over there. There's a Goliath over there. Oh, there's a Jericho with big, massive walls over there. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of challenges that are in front of you. That's the long-term thing. But if you stick with God, these things will be so fulfilling. They will take care of you not only today, but it'll take care of you tomorrow. You have some challenges, but God makes a way of escape with every challenge, with every temptation. To go back, he makes a way of escape. And with every challenge in front of you, he says, I put no more on you than you're able to bear. I'm not going to bury you. I'm not going to ask you to do something that you can't do, that I haven't empowered you to do. We're in this together. We're holding hands, and I will empower you so that you will be victorious, no matter what. I don't care what it is. And this ought to be the thing that's fulfilling. Yeah, some challenges, but man, when you get that victory, it just keeps you going and it satisfies you. And I never get tired of it. Yeah, some challenges, but I'm going to keep going. So be encouraged, folks. And I want you to really think about it. Do you really want to go back? Was it really that good behind you? The next time the devil comes up and he's trying to trip you up and try to get you to look back, think about where you came from. And every time that devil tries to bring you, say, no, you're not going to catch me with that again. I'm not going back to that temporary thing. Yeah, that stuff is fun for a little bit. But then it gets to be where it just demoralizes you. It just takes the soul out of you because you keep harping and going back to that mess. Oh, it's good for a little bit. And then sometimes by the grace of God, you'll come to yourself and you'll realize, I can't keep doing that mess. So I was backsliding for a time from 18 to 22. And my wife has heard this story before, my mother and some other family members. But there was a time that I was in a nightclub and I had been searching for something. I had some fun out there. I dated some girls out there. I hung with the boys. I went to clubs in St. Louis and in Kansas City, and I had some good times sometimes. But there was always something missing. Now, you have to answer this individually for yourselves. That's the reason I left, and I said, I can't go back to that. And I was in a club in Kansas City by myself. I wasn't with any of my buddies. I wasn't dating any girl at the time. I was just by myself. I just wanted to get out the house. And I was in a club, and the Lord spoke to me, and he said, what you seek doesn't even exist. It made me feel kind of like a fool after a while, like, good Lord. And it was like a veil left my eyes. It was lifted from my eyes, and I was like, oh, my Lord. All these 4 years I've been out here searching for something that doesn't even exist. So how am I going to get satisfied from something that doesn't exist? And that's why, and then God eventually brought me back to the church. And there was a time after God had brought me back in that I remember one day I was going to Sunday night service, and I thought I don't even know what I don't even remember what the struggle was. But I drove past the church, and when I got up to the corner, and I was just ready to go drifting off and backslide again, and I said, where am I going to go? I just came from the world. Where am I going to go? He's tempting me to get out of here. I went right around the block, came there and parked and went into church. And I've been in church ever since. And I don't have a mind to backslide. I can't go back. I already know what's there. So no matter what the struggle is, folks, just remember, God has something. And if you stick with this, he will take you through it. And he knows what you need. He knows what you need on a temporary basis, but a lot of his temporary things lead to long-term stability and long-term growth and long-term happiness. And it's better than just temporary stuff. So stick with him. He'll take you through the Red Seas. He'll take you through the wilderness. He'll take you through these things. There might be some rough spots, folks, but God heard your prayer. He heard your prayer. He's on the case, and he's leading you out. He has a way of escape. He puts no more on you than you can bear, and he will lead you out, and you will be overall happy. Just be patient. And when I say patient, I'm not talking about, well, he said be patient. It's 9 months, and I still ain't seen nothing. I'm not saying that at all. God will show up, and he'll do his thing. He will keep you. He knows who you are. He knows what you need. Just be patient. What you've been praying about that you're not happy about, it still is no good. Nothing has changed. Just remember that. When the tempter comes, say, no, thank you, sir. I'm going to stick with Jesus. I'm going to see what he has. I already know what you have, and it's some mess. So be blessed, and I hope this helps you, and I will talk to you next time.